Why did Christians adopt the idea of hell? And somebody said, didn't the early Roman Catholic Church adopt a lot of pagan tradition?
Yes, they're why early Christians adopted the idea of hell. We're going to get into specifically once we get more into the actual Christian section, and then I have a couple other things we can bring up too. But the short answer is that Christians adopted a lot. Is the reality, is the truth. Much of it was adopted. Much of the religious views in general, many of the practices, a lot of them are adopted, and then they're shifted slightly. There's again, and please remember, anything I say, I'm not telling you I subscribe to. I'm just giving you information. There's a big theory within kind of fringe Christianity, and then there's a huge theory outside of Christianity that many of these different cultures received. You have two trains of thought, I guess, right? Within Christianity, most people believe that no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what your circumstance is or your geography is, God will provide you the opportunity to know him, so that nobody is just going to hell because they didn't know God, right? Like, you always bring up the people who are in super remote areas, right? Like in the rainforest, you have no cell phone, no internet, no nothing. All you have is your little tribe, and everybody is born and dies in that tribe. There's no external people. You got no missionaries coming in. So you always have this question within apologetics of, okay, well, what happens to those people? They didn't do anything wrong, but they also, like, they don't know about Jesus. So do they just go to hell? The normal answer that you get is that no, they don't go to hell, because in situations like that, God will make himself known to them in some other way, is the normal answer. And whether you agree with that or not, that's a normal answer. So one of these ideas is that the reason that so many of these old stories correspond, whether it be the Epic of Gilgamesh and its correlation to Genesis, or it be the Horus the sun god in Egypt and his correlation to Christ, and those are two of many examples. The one thing you need to know is that Christianity was the later version. That's just the truth. It's just the truth. We don't have to like it, but it's the truth. So we can't say that they copied Christianity, because they didn't. They were later. However, one of the answers that kind of makes sense is that, similar to the people in the rainforest, God would make himself known to different cultures in different ways. Because you have to think for a second, like, where were the Jews? Where were God's chosen people? After several hundred years, were they still the only people? No, there were tons of other people. There were other cultures, and, thoughtfully, there were probably other people in places that never ever interacted with the Jews, or never interacted with the more bigger communities, so they never heard the stories. Egypt is a good example. Mesopotamia is still a good example, but even go further geographically away from God's story, God's people with the Jews, still bringing Christianity. Were they the only people on the planet within a boat ride away? Probably not, is the reality. Probably not. So one of those theories is that God just made himself known to these people in different ways. And so in the case of Egypt, for example, obviously there was some connection between Egypt and early Jewish cultures, but why would God not use Egyptian characters to tell the same story? The part where you get in trouble with that is because we put a lot of weight on Jesus Christ as an individual. So that's kind of the caveat with it. But you'll still get a lot of people who believe that God would just use different stories of different characters to convey the same ideas. So Horus the sun god, born of a virgin, goes through a lot of the same thing as Jesus, to get people who were in that culture, in that geography, to kind of understand a similar concept. But again, the issue with that is that within Christianity, we put a lot of weight on Jesus as an individual. So then if they're worshiping Horus, the sun god, as basically a pseudo Christ for their culture, to us within the Christian view, that's problematic, right? It doesn't align. But that's really the only other way to explain it. But the truth is, Christianity came later. So you have to be able to reconcile that somehow in your head. You have to. That's a whole conversation in and of itself, but that's the best answer I can give. And the Catholic Church absolutely adopted pagan stuff. I don't know if we want to talk about that more, then I will.